Go.
Hi, everybody. Guess what? You get me tonight. Romy's feeling a little under the weather, so it's my turn. Um, Tonight, we are very fortunate to have Lisa with us. We haven't had Lisa for a while. We've had Curtis most of the time here. So Lisa's going to give us some insights tonight and how to lead into a conversation and what you want to accomplish with that conversation. So with that, I'm going to let her take it away.
Good evening, everybody. I want to thank you for being here. If you're watching live and if you're watching this on a replay, you won't be able to ask questions. We do have the Q&A app up for those of you that are there. But either way, we are going to talk a little about conversations, but I want to talk a little bit about mindset from a different perspective. We always talk about it, but now I want you to think we're always so busy talking about what we want to accomplish. And I want you to start looking at things a little bit differently from a different point of view. And the example that I'm going to use, and this is going to crack you up, is I want you to think about buying shoes. Because I always figured, I never knew what I was going to do, but I always figured that if I sold shoes, I would sell the most shoes. And I'm going to let you know why I thought I would sell the most shoes after I take you through a couple of different scenarios in which you could buy shoes. So Mark, you're here with me, not as, men don't buy shoes with the same dedication and commitment to variety that women do, but you do buy shoes. And I want you to imagine, for those of you that are watching, that you're going out to the mall to go to buy shoes, and you go into a shoe store, and that salesperson, that typical, stereotypical, hardcore salesperson gets a hold of you. And they're selling so hard that eventually you buy a pair of shoes pretty much to escape from the shoe store. That's how hardcore a salesperson you are. And I'm sure you've dealt with salespeople like that in your lifetime, haven't you, Mark?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so now you just buy these, you buy any pair, you don't even know if you like the shoes, but they're on your feet, they fit, they don't hurt, you're like, I'll take them to get out of the store. Now let's go forward from that moment. Chances are you may not even wear these shoes very much because you weren't excited about them, you weren't in love with them, they were okay and you had to get out of there. When you look at them, it brings back this awful experience you had of being in that store. When you go back to the mall, you almost cross over to the other side of the mall when you're walking down that part of the mall because you want to avoid the shoe store. You never want to run into this guy again. It is a painful memory. You did not enjoy the experience. And for the ladies that are watching, and more men, shopping when done properly is a wonderful, joyful experience. You are trading money to get joy. How many of us really need most of the things we buy? We're going to buy feeling good. That was the opposite of a feeling good experience. But for that sales guy, he sold a pair of shoes. So it was a win if making the sale is all you care about. But did he develop a customer? Did he develop a relationship? Chances are that was a one-time sale because Mark is probably never going to go back to that store, even if he doesn't have anything against the store. He equates that store with this hardcore salesperson with a bad experience, doesn't ever want to run into him again. So here's a guy who beat him, who had a guy who came into his store who was probably going to buy shoes anyway. So he took and forced the sale he would have gotten, and what did it cost him? Now let's look at another scenario. Mark goes into the store because he's looking for shoes. He finds a very nice, non-memorable person. They're polite, they give him good service, they bring him the shoes to try on, he finds a couple of pairs of shoes, he leaves the store, probably thinks it's a good store to shop in, is happy with his purchase, and the person was nice and polite, and a week later, probably a day later, what he remembers most is that he got shoes he liked and maybe where he got them. Chances are a month later when he needs shoes, if he doesn't have the box or doesn't look, he might even have a hard time remembering what store they came from. What he doesn't remember is the person who sold them to him. Now, he doesn't remember them badly like he does in the first scenario, so that's an improvement. If nobody's, it's better to not be remembered because you have an opportunity, should you meet the person again, to improve that it is to be remembered to the point that people are avoiding you, never wanting to come to that store again. But that second person really didn't do a lot to build a relationship or build a customer of their own. It was all about the shoes, which are a commodity. Shoes that Mark can buy at any location of that chain store, or really probably at many other stores in many other cities that carry that brand. So again, a better experience, but basically a one-time sale. Now, if you think about what we do, we are really in the business of building a network of consumers for our products, our brands, and finding those who want to do more than that. Finding those that can work through people, to people, helping match people up that are looking for change in their life, whether it's through the products that you offer and they become customers, through the opportunity to change your life by teaching others to be customers, changing your life radically the way Mark and Romy have done so that you can live the life of your dreams because you want to build an organization of life-changing people that go out and do this all over the world. But what you really don't want, nobody in sales really wants, is a one-time sale ever. Because we invest a lot of time. Everybody invests a lot of time to get somebody to come and make that initial purchase. And the easiest customer to keep happy, make money with, and grow your business with is the one you already have. Because the second time around, you're not having to invest nearly as much time, because our major investment in this business is not money, it's time. But not nearly as much money, right? So the second person's doing better, they're polite, they're nice, they're personable, but they still haven't utilized their greatest asset, which is themselves and their ability to connect with another human being. Now let's talk about a third scenario. Person comes into the store and you get very interested in them, all the things we've talked about. And they really enjoy talking with you. And when Mark says to me, what do you think of these shoes? I tell him, Mark, I'd love to make a sale. Gosh knows I want to make some money, but those really are not the shoes for you. Same thing you do if you're smart in network marketing or in life. Have enough faith in the long-term relationship and the long-term possibility to be honest. So I tell this to Mark, and Mark's pretty excited because now he knows that when I tell him those shoes look good, that they really look good, because I was willing to tell him when the ones that didn't look so good didn't look so good. And we start talking, and we're having a great old time, and Mark wants to buy some shoes because he likes me. He really wants to purchase from me. So he buys his shoes, and he leaves the store. Now, in all three scenarios, Mark walked out with shoes. The first one, he was never going back. The second one, the main issue was the shoes. In the third scenario, we became friends. So now when Mark comes to the mall, I believe that he's not going to avoid my store. He's going to say, hey, that store that Lisa works in's here. Let me go by that store and say hi. And he's going to always come looking to try and want to buy shoes. See, I always believed that I would sell the most shoes because I'd be having great conversations with people and they would enjoy them. Because the number one reason that people buy anything is because they want to. The second they want to, or because someone asks them to, or because they like you. The number one reason people buy is because they like you, and the second reason is because you ask them to. They buy what they want. The reason people don't buy, or the least reason people buy, is number four is if they need something. So a lot of times we go out and we try to sell people too hard, and maybe we get a sale, but we lose a relationship. And we try to sell them based on need. And I want you to think about this. Does anybody really like spending money on what they need? Think about what you hear. People work hard all week, and especially women, and the last person they buy for is themselves. First thing they do is they want to take care of everybody around them. They buy for the kids, they buy for the husband, they buy for what everybody else should have. And then maybe they buy for themselves because they have to feel like everybody else is taken care of. So when you have a relationship with them, you can encourage them to buy for themselves. But people work hard every week, and then they need snow tires. Have you ever heard people say, I can't believe I worked hard all week and I have to go buy these tires? Or I can't believe I have to spend so much of my money on life insurance. Or you wouldn't believe what this medical insurance is costing, and the price is going up and up and up. It's just so expensive. Everything people complain about having to spend money on are things they need. How often do people complain about spending money, no matter how ludicrous it is, on the things they want? Very often we're arguing with people and getting angry with people because they spend money on things they want, foregoing things they should be spending their money on. They are borrowing money to pay their bills while they're spending money on what seems to be frivolous things. That's human nature. Now, I told you this whole story because I want you to understand that when you just treat people like people and you're interested in them and you master the art of conversation rather than the art of presentation, when you master the art of dialogue rather than the art of monologue, your business thrives. Because when people have a connection with you that is beyond the transactional of the moment, when they believe that you truly care about them, you have many opportunities for things to come to fruition the way you want. So imagine that every single person you ever come into contact with is going to have a positive impact on your business. You don't know how. Maybe they'll be a customer. Maybe they'll turn out to be the next diamond. Maybe they won't do either, but they'll introduce you to somebody who's going to be one of those two things, because over time they have come to realize that you're ethical and upstanding and that you care about people and that your business is really a good one because they've watched your success even though it's not for them. So every single person is going to have a positive impact on your business and help it grow and flourish the seventh time the subject comes up, or the seventh time you meet them. Now, in order for that to transpire, you have to be on good terms, and they have to be excited about the fact that it's you on the other end of the phone, or you they ran into when the seventh time rolls around. Now, contrast that to the way you operate your business and the way you watch others operate your business, and see if you will begin to understand why some people who apparently you think are doing the same things that you're doing, certainly they have the same opportunity, the same comp plan, the same products, and they are taught, and you think that they're operating exactly as you are or exactly as people on your team are, but they're getting better results. I promise you it comes down to, after you master the consistency and after you're talking to the right number of people, it comes down to the interactive nature of their conversations. Does that make sense, Mark?
Mark? Yeah, it really does. It makes a lot of sense.
What are your thoughts on that?
It kind of brings to mind something, Lisa, that we have in my job outside of doTERRA. It's heavy equipment and heavy equipment sales. So there's always been a saying that the salesman sells the first one, but when we have a repeat customer, it's the service and the relationship that we build after we sell that first one that sells the second one and the third one and the fourth one and the fifth one.
And being in business, you would know this. The first one's pretty expensive to make that sale. You make the least amount of, you make much more money on the second and third and fourth sales than you do on the first, because you didn't have to advertise or go through all the stuff to get them. Don't you agree?
Right. Yeah, absolutely right.
And you know, so many people are so busy chasing the next person that they never realize what they leave on the table with the person they're already in communion with. Just because it doesn't fit into their textbook idea of what should happen. And you know, Mark, I'm sure you've experienced this because you guys just made Blue Diamond. Congratulations, by the way. So you've got a large organization. You've been through a lot of no's and a lot of not no's and a lot of I'm not sure's. Have you ever sat down and really looked at your business and begun to realize that most of the great successes in your business, not all, but most, are really not the people you actually introduced or you knew before? It's almost always someone that came through one of those relationships on your like second, third, fourth level, or someone that you knew kind of before network marketing, but they weren't really a close friend. They're very close now, and they turned out to be the one that exploded it, and they really weren't the one that you would have said, yeah, they're going to be the one.
That's right. I mean, you know how it works in our industry. We started with 5 people. We have over 12,000 now, and a lot of those people are our very close friends that we never even knew them before. So just like you say, it's the relationship, and it keeps building, and you keep getting new ones all the time, and that's how it works.
And I will tell you, I like to think I don't prejudge. I really do. But we all do to some degree. We just like to think that we do. And when I very first got started in business, there was a girl who was like on my third level. She was sweet, and she was nice, and she was bubbly, and as it turns out, brilliant. But we were all young. And you know, when somebody's young and bright and bubbly and very pretty and, you know, always like that, you don't necessarily think they're the sharpest, smartest person, because you're not seeing that part of their personality. And she would always call, and, you know, in her very bubbly, upbeat, I took to be not serious kind of way, and always be calling and asking questions. And she was always very nice about it, and she was never a whiner, so I would always answer her questions. And you know, you're kind of going, you know, she'd do a little here and a little there, and you never really thought that much was going to happen. And about 6 or 7 months in, her business just started to take off. I mean, take off. And she became one of my fastest growing legs, reached the top on my heels, is doing phenomenally well in the industry still today, you know, high six-figure earner. And never in a million years, you know, would I have thought that would happen. And one day I said to her, you know, what happened? And she said, you know, one day, she said, I was asking questions, learning. She said, and one day, I saw it differently. You know, one day somebody had said something to her, and she kept looking at network marketing as a cross between something she had to learn like college and the job she was going to have to replace the job she had once she got it mastered. And she said that one day, when she got a check, like it was maybe $2,000 or $3,000 for a month, which was the first time it was like money. And somebody said to her, yeah, well, you know, you'd have to work 10 times as hard. If you work 10 times as hard, you can make your, you know, you'll get to 30 grand a month. Because she was always laughing about she was always telling people all the money you could make, and they were always laughing at her. And they said, like, are you working hard? And she goes, well, I'm working pretty hard. They said, well, how are you going to do 10 times as much? Because you're going to have to do 10 times as much if you want to make 10 times as much. And it clicked for her, no, I don't. And she said when she realized that the hardest work was learning it and getting to $3,000 to $5,000 a month, that was the hardest that she would have to work. The rest was just learning and growing and opening up her mind and finding others that wanted to change her life. She said all of a sudden her light bulb went on. And it was just because of one remark somebody said and one day. And never in a million years, if you would ask me with all the people I sponsored and all the people that I recruited, was she going to be the one that was going to break through, I would have said, you know, she'll do okay. She's a nice girl. But we always had conversations because, you know, and I was always talking to her. And in my mind, I might have written her off a little bit, but never to her, because she never exhibited any of the behaviors that would make you tune off to somebody. She always showed up. She was always positive. She was at the meeting. She did all the right behaviors that would make you give somebody attention. And I didn't learn the lesson from it at the time, which was that it's really just about talking to people rather than at people, because it was in conversations that her light bulb went on. It was in asking her questions so that she had to think and listening to her answers and guiding that her light bulb went on. And she was already in the business. But people that are outside of the business, when you are interested in them, if you listen, you can ask people questions that will take them exactly where you want them to go. And people are so much easier to work with when they think it's their idea. Have you ever noticed that, Mark?
Yeah. If you can swing it around to that, you got it made. But you know, it's like you said, the hardest part is in the beginning. Those first bunch of no's, pretty hard to swallow. And a no is always hard to swallow, but it gets easier and easier and easier. And like you say, the hard work is in the beginning. You're just learning it, You're just learning how to be rejected. you and all that comes easier and faster as time goes on.
And let me give everybody a different perspective on that, because I really am grateful to a lot of people, and I define rejection differently. Anybody that's ever been willing to have the conversation with me and with an open mind be willing to let me present, let me ask them questions, let me practice on them, if you will, go through the process. I never felt they were rejecting me because they were willing to invest their time to help me be better. Because understand that people's most valuable commodity, whether they realize it or not, is their time. Your most valuable commodity is your time. If you talk to people that are successful, they will tell you that they will always trade a little bit of money if they can find a way to buy back time. That's why so many people that are doing well are always reinvesting in their own education. It's not education in the collegiate sense when you go to college to take a course in algebra, but Mark is a blue diamond, and he's done, I've done well in the industry, he's done well in the industry, Romy's done well in the industry, but they've done things different. They've learned how to do some things that I haven't learned how to do through their experience, and I've done some that they haven't. And if I can get an hour of Mark's time to explain to me how to do something that he's figured out, a particular strategy or a particular thing that he's been able to reverse engineer to the point that he's now got it on that one-page recipe, what is that worth to me if it took him 6 months and I can get him to give me that information in an hour? I'll always sign up for that class, because I'm investing a little bit of money and a little bit of time, which for something that he invested a lot of his time and a lot of his money in. And so when somebody is willing to invest time and give you their time, they're giving you the greatest gift in the whole world. And even if they say no, you can't control yes or no. If I don't like the color blue, I don't care if you put the greatest salesman in the world in front of me, and no matter how compelling their arguments are or how polite I am, if I don't like blue, I don't like blue. If blue's not for me, it's not for me. Or if today is a day that I'm not open-minded, even if blue is the prettiest color in the whole wide world, I'm not going to get excited about blue. But if you treat me with respect and we have a good relationship, 3 weeks from now, you might show me blue and I'd say, wow, I never realized how gorgeous blue was before. I don't know how I missed that. So every time somebody gives you their time, they're giving you a gift. So they're not rejecting you. Rejecting you would be not just saying, you know what, I'm not interested in that and I have no time for you, and hanging up on you. That's a rejection. So because if 100 people, if you sit down with 100 people and 100 people will tell you their story and then allow you to tell them yours, tell them what you're doing, ask them questions, go through the process with you, I promise you that the first 4 or 5 times you share this information, it's awkward. You are better the 6th time than you were the first time. You are better the 15th time than you were the 5th time. You're great by the 60th time you've done it. And I don't care if all 59 people before told you no. The 60th time you go through it, you're better. You're moving in on expert. Because human beings, the way to get better at something is through repetition. We are all of us. If you're out there, think about anything that you didn't have a particular natural talent for. I have no rhythm. I'm a klutz. I trip over my own 2 feet. But I learned how to line dance because eventually, after standing in the line long enough, watching the people's feet in front of me, eventually you learn how to do it. It took me 3 times as long as everybody else, but eventually you get it. So if people are willing to do that for you, they're not rejecting you. And you should be grateful because they are helping you to get better. And I would say to everybody that if you go through 100 conversations, 100 exercises of being interested in other people, asking them if they're happy, if they have a plan, would they like to see one, what's going on with you, and listening and asking questions and having those conversations, many of those people, if not today, however many times they say no, eventually, remember, 7 times in, they will have a positive impact on your business, but you will walk away with 100 relationships, some more intense than others, some very cursory, but every one of them something that you could expand upon, because they were willing to let you listen to you, and you spent time being interested in them in that conversation, and that's a start. That's something to build upon. So anybody who's willing to give you time is a hero in your story. We're going to talk a lot about story in an upcoming virtual workshop that Romy and Mark are going to be putting together. But anybody who's ever been there and let you present or let you talk to them has been a hero in your story. Whether they say yes or whether they say no, doesn't matter. It helps you to get better. And if you can look at it that way and teach others to look at it that way, you will never run out of people to talk to because timing changes. And anybody you've treated with respect that you're in a relationship with will always be willing to let you revisit the subject with them as time goes on. Always. You have new information, maybe something in their life has changed, and every time that you do, the relationship gets deeper and less dependent on whether they do your business or not, and you never know. There have been people that I built relationships with 10 years later, and we've still not done a business together in network marketing, or 10 years later, they came into my business and they're responsible for whole countries. You just never know. That make sense?
Yeah, and that you just reminded me because Curtis went over this a few weeks ago in one of our calls.
Yeah, he got that from me.
Huh?
He does. You know, he speaks so well. He's so articulate that I think I'm the source of a lot of his material, but I don't mind being a great writer for a great speaker.
Well, and that's what he said was you look at every one of your presentations, even if it's a no, it's a rehearsal. And the next time you're better, and the next time you're better, and the next time you're better. Until, like you said, you got 100 of them under your belt, and you're really good. And just to
You know, it's funny, Mark. Do you remember your first presentation?
Yep.
I mean, do you not, like, if yours is anything like mine, do you not, like, go like this?
My first one...
The only thing I didn't do was fall off the stage, but everything else that could have been a disastrous about it, I did.
My very first one was actually pretty easy because Romy and I did it together. And I just got up and I said, we're here to talk about essential oils, so my wife will tell you. So that was my first presentation. Count.
That's an introduction. That's not a presentation.
And I'll save you a little time on the blue diamond tips. You won't have to ask me because I can tell you right now, I'm here because I did everything Romy told me to do. Now,
you know, that works in marriage too. No wonder you guys are so happily married.
I'm a pretty good yes man.
Well, you know, it's funny. I tell Steve all the time, I'm so glad we got through the second decade because the first decade, it took him 10 years to understand that I'm always right. And the second 10 years with him having that knowledge have just been delightful.
Well, I learned pretty quick. It didn't take me 10 years.
Yes, well, Steve is slow, but was slow on that subject, but that's okay. He's made up for it.
So...
But I will tell you, my first presentation, the good news was I never had any problem doing the second one because there was no way it could be worse. I was one of those people who failed so gloriously and in such technicolor with my first one that the only way to go was up. So it was good because I said, okay, I lived through it. I didn't die. It can't get any worse. Let's go to town. So if you're going to fail, go fail miserably, gloriously, but committed that you'll go again because it can only get better.
Yep, that's right.
But I will tell you something interesting because I say this tongue-in-cheek, but I was told something last week, and I never really looked at it this way, but it's my new perspective. So, you know, we fight every day. As human beings, we fight. We fight to survive. We fight to make things better. We fight to overcome our own shadow beliefs that keep us from our best possible accomplishments. But think of where, you know, you go out and you fight the good fight, and sometimes you win, and sometimes you lose. The only way to fail is to quit. So we never fail. You fight and fight and fight until you can't fight anymore, and then you reevaluate and you live to fight another day. Because what we do is so much, as people start to understand, more than anything, we give people the opportunity and the option to make their lives better. on one level with the products, but all the way up to completely reinventing how they live their lives every day and having control of their destiny. And change is scary. So it's okay if people don't say yes right away. You know, we all of us have a secret desire on some level. You know, Mark, I don't know if you're like most men, but did you ever want to be a major sports player in any sport at any point in your life?
Oh, of course, sports, race car
Okay,
driver, any of that.
okay, so yeah, it's a guy thing. But even though every guy in the world wants that, if someday, if that agent knocked on your door and said, "Here I am with your contract," even though it's what you've always wanted, it's scary. Every time something comes, you know, I've talked to guys that are pro athletes, and they said, I said, you know, what was it like when all your dreams came true? And they're like, scary as anything. Because now it's, well, will I be good enough? And will I make the cut? And oh my God, my whole life is going to change. And anytime you're bringing something in front of somebody that involves change, no matter what the upside is, the mind initially wants to believe it can't be. Because we're creatures of comfort. You know, I've gone through with you all, we don't get what we want, we get what we picture. People live their beliefs. Wherever we're at any given point in our lives, we believe that that's where we're supposed to be. We believe that's what our capability level is. Or at least we have that voice in our head that's telling us, you know, this is where you belong and you're not supposed to accomplish X and you're not supposed to accomplish Y. And go from when you don't see yourself there to seeing yourself there. That change in belief goes from the voice telling that you can, overcoming the voice telling you that you can't. And the way that that's overcome is when you start to realize it isn't fatal. You know, why not take a chance? It isn't fatal. But that goes back to fight or flight. You know, there are many times in my life where I have been scared to the point that I had to finally ask them, well, and somebody would say to me, well, if it doesn't work, what's the worst that can happen? And I'm like going, yeah, what is the worst that can happen? It's not, there's nothing really here to be that scared of. So understand that although you're all enthusiastic, remember that you went through a process and that other people are at a different point in that line than you are. And you can't push them through the process or pull them through the process. You can only respect that it is a process, put them first, have conversations that move their thinking along or help them to think differently, and trust the relationship enough to know that once you have one, people that like you will always do their best to help you. You know, Romy, Mark, and I, we're in the same space. We all want the industry to be better. We all are here to help people change their lives. You get to a certain point, the level of success that they're at, their check is going to continue to grow. It's always nice to get another rank, but they don't need to work as hard as they continue to do so. That's because they want to help as many people as they can. It's the bug that infects you as you spend more time in the space. This light bulb that goes on when you realize that we really can change the world. It's a very heady thing. But for a lot of people, I can't go out and tell them on day one everything that I know to be true, and I know it for sure to be true, because for them that's like speaking another language, and you have to respect that and respect them and understand it. So I say all this to come back to, if you ask better questions, you will get better answers. And if you drill down to specificity, both yourself when you're talking to people, if you help drive people to clarity, to get the picture more clear so they can see more clearly, whatever it is, if you will always ask the questions that will help you fine-tune and get a clearer picture, sharpen the focus, your business will always get better. That is the secret. So don't try to tell so much, ask more. Start conversations. Have conversations. Go get your lists this week and go back to all the people that have told you no and start a conversation that's interested with them, and then be able to share with them what's happened for you since you've gotten involved and what's happened for you over the past few months, and see where it takes you. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I really like that, Lisa. The the thing I was thinking about while you were saying that is it's just like the race car driver or the football player or whatever it is. You have to go. You also have to go through the steps to get there.
No,
To be a
no
championship
question.
race car driver, you got to start driving go-karts when you're a little kid, and then go into stock car racing and up to another level of racing and another level until you're ready for NASCAR. And that's just exactly the way the like doTERRA is built with the ranks. You got to get ready to be the presidential diamond or the blue diamond, whatever your sights are set at.
Exactly.
You've got to take the steps to get there.
And the neat thing is they give you a platform on which to do that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that will very naturally, and that's what's so beautiful about the compensation structures, the way they're designed in our space. If you will just focus on the simple things that get you to the next level, the skills and all the rest of it happens as a byproduct. So you don't have to figure it all out. I've met people that are at the top of their plans that really couldn't tell you how the comp plan works exactly. Not the way that the guy who wrote it could. But then again, I've met people that can drive cars really, really well that couldn't tell you how they're built at all. And that's really the key. And it's funny that you should bring up professional sports people because I never got this, but it's funny. We have a friend who is actually a pro baseball player. He's retired now. And I was listening to a conversation once, and somebody said to him, every team wins 54 games, every team loses 54 games, and it's what you do with the other 54 that will determine who's in last place and who wins the World Series. And he said, yeah. And he said, so you know that you're probably going to lose 50 at the beginning of the season, that you're going to lose 50 games or so because every team does. And he said, yeah. And they said, well, did you ever sit down and try to figure out, know which 50 games you're going to lose, like the Yankees? Everybody loses to the Yankees. He said, oh, no, I know we're going to win every game. And like, what do you mean you're going to win every game? You just said you're going to lose 50. He goes, of course. We're going to every team loses 50 games. But before we go onto the field, if you ask me, are you going to win this game? He said, we go into every game knowing that we're going to win that game. And until we lose the game, we believe we're going to win. Because there are some games that that the only way you win them, even though everybody else thinks they're lost, is to keep fighting until it's over because you never know. And it's really the truth, isn't it? So, like I said, this week Curtis gave you this assignment once before, and I hope you all did it, or if you're watching this for the first time, this will be the first time you did it, but it's good to repeat it, especially so you can compare where you were. This week, go through your address book, go through your phone, go through Facebook, go reacquaint yourself with somebody that you haven't talked to for a while, or a couple of people, live or over the phone, Skype or Hangout, and be interested in them. And keep the conversation, no matter how many times they try to turn it back to you, say, yeah, we'll talk about me later, but I really want to hear about your new job. I really want to hear what you were talking about. Keep asking them questions and see how long it takes for the conversation to run away, where they just get really excited about focusing on their favorite subject, which normally nobody ever does, and see how long you can keep the conversation going with just focusing in and them talking to you about them. And watch what happens and where that person is connection-wise with you at the end of that conversation. And I think you'll understand everything that we've been talking about on this call today. And I would love, through Romy or through Mark, sometime in the next few weeks after you've done this, to hear your stories and your results with this exercise. Because I have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen. I think you're all going to be a little bit surprised, and I think there'll be great stories for you to tell. And we're going to be doing this workshop coming up on storytelling, the power of story. And there's all kinds of stories, and some of the best stories you can tell are stories not just of what you've done in business, but the people you've met along the way and what happened when you interacted with them. And this is kind of work for that. And that's really all I've got, unless you've got any questions, Mark, or if anybody else does.
No, I think that's a good idea, Lisa, and I think we can use that for a challenge in our Facebook group this week, is to have people reconnect and then tell us what happened.
And you guys actually have 2 weeks to do that, because you're going to your conference next week. And I would also encourage, that's another opportunity. You have a chance to go meet a lot of people, and there's nothing like the power of other people's stories, both to build your own belief and to share with other people as you're going and building the business to paint a greater picture. Meet lots of people and collect their stories. Listen with attentive ears, and go out there not to talk but to listen. Everybody should make an attempt to meet at least 5 new people and learn their stories that are already in your business. Sideline, upline, other cities. Expand your reach of your big doTERRA family, because those stories are powerful too. So many people don't understand the family nature by which we grow companies within our space. And so much of the excitement that people find when they get involved in the space comes from that being in business for themselves yet not alone.
So this retreat we're going to this week, Lisa, is for it's the leadership retreat. So it's for silver rank and above are the only ones that
better. Everybody
only
you're going
ones that can attend. So we have a lot of new silver and above people on our team since the last leadership. Also, we're going to have a lot of people that have never even been to convention that are going to be able to go to this leadership.
This is going to be a fantastic opportunity. For those of you that didn't qualify to go, you better be at the next one.
I agree. So
okay. You can take the girl out of recruiting, but you can't take the drill sergeant out of the girl. Sorry.
That's right. And you're absolutely right in getting to one of these events and feeling a part of the community and a part of, you can just learn so much from the other people.
For a lot of people, that is a game changer as they start to realize how big and how widespread it really is what they're a part of.
Yep.
Well, have a fantastic time and a fantastic week, and I'll see you in 2.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you again for all your help, and this is we just can't thank you enough for what you and Curtis are doing for us.
Oh, anytime. I love it, and I love that you guys are doing so well. And the biggest, most exciting thing about your promotion and you guys going Blue Diamond is it means you're impacting more lives. The bigger the paycheck, the bigger the rank, the more lives that are being touched, and that just means that in the last year you have greatly expanded your reach to change more lives, and nothing excites me than being able to, in a small way, help facilitate that, because that's why we're all here.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. So,
all right, guys, have a great day.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
You will.
All right. Thank you.